Good evening. Welcome to Reading Things with a Southern Accent, 2020, episode 30. Episode 32. I just wrote this down, and I've already forgotten it. It's pretty monumental that we've made it to 32 episodes of this little bit of shenanigans here during the COVID-19 lockdown. The reason why we do this is just to provide a tiny bit of levity for people who are at home social distancing and staying away from everyone else. And you're tired of Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or Apple TV or Amazon Prime. You've run out of things to watch. And so we bring you a tiny little bit of levity right here for you each weeknight at 6 o'clock. My name is Murph. We've been doing this for about 40-something days now during the Corona apocalypse lockdown. And we've done, we started with Roald Dahl. We did song lyrics that are remotely related to viruses, disease, or staying at home. We read things from a book about hipsters, or dads being the original hipsters, and then we did Shakespeare. This week, last night, we have started a segment on Edgar Allen Poe. Edgar Allen Poe is an American writer. He was born in 1809. Yes, 1809. He had a tragic life. This just in. He had a tragic life. His father left, his mother died, and then he got married, and his 13-year-old cousin bride died a few years later. Anything else? No. So Edgar Allan Poe had a bit of a rough life. Tonight's reading comes from it's a short story. It's a short story called The Mask of the Red Death. And I forgot to print out my notes, so I'm just doing it from right here. Say it again. The Tales of Mystery. Oh, it's from the Tales of Mystery and Horror. The Mask of the Red Death is a short story by American writer Edgar Allan Poe, first published in 1842. The story follows Prince Prospero's attempts to avoid a dangerous plague, how fitting, known as the Red Death, by hiding in his abbey. So just like all of us, Prince Prospero was hiding. He was social distancing. He was staying at home, ordering, #stay at home. 1840 what? 1842. So, that's it, right? Okay, I'm getting the, let's move it along. So, coming from this book here, this is Edgar Allan Poe, Complete Stories and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. The Mask of the Red Death. And we are reading just an excerpt. It is too much to read the entire story. From the section called Tales of Mystery and Horror. Here we go. No migraine today, by the way. Feeling pretty good. Whew. But these other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life. And the revel went whirlingly on, until at length there commenced the sounding of midnight upon the clock. And then the music ceased, as I have told, and the evolutions of the waltzers were quieted. And there was an uneasy cessation of all things as before. But now there were 12 strokes to be sounded by the bell of the clock. Excuse me. And thus it happened, perhaps that more of thought crept with more of time into the meditations of the thoughtful among those who reveled. And thus, too, it happened, perhaps, that before the last echoes of the last chime had utterly sunk into silence, there were many individuals in the crowd who had found leisure to become aware of the presence of a masked figure which had arrested the attention of no single individual before. It's kind of like going to the grocery store right now and everyone's wearing masks. You know what I'm saying? Yep, okay. And the rumor of this new presence having spread itself whisperingly around, there arose at length from the whole company a buzz or murmur expressive of disapprobation. Oh my. See, when the producer picks these segments, she does this on purpose. She tries to trip me up. Expressive of disapprobation. That's what we're going to go with. Disapprobation. And then surprise, then. Finally, of terror, of horror, and of disgust. In an assembly of phantasms such as I have painted, it may well be supposed... Can you keep it down over there? Bless you. That no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensation. In truth, the masquerade license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figure in question had out-Heroded Herod and gone beyond the bounds of even the prince's indefinite decorum. There are chords in the hearts of the most reckless which cannot be touched without emotion, even with the utterly lost, to whom life and death are equally jests. There are matters of which no jest can be made. The whole company, indeed, seemed now deeply to feel that excuse me. That's a good one. That in the costume and bearing of the stranger neither wit nor propriety existed. The figure was tall and gaunt, and shrouded from head to foot in the habiliments of the grave. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse that the closest scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat. And yet, I'm getting some direction. Stand by. Okay. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse that the closest scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat. And yet all this might have been endured, if not approved, by the mad revelers around. But the mummer had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. His vesture had dabbled in blood, and his broad brow, with all the features of the face, was besprinkled with the scarlet horror. When the eyes of Prince Prospero fell upon his spectral image, which, with a slow and solemn movement, as if more fully to sustain its role, stalked to and fro among the waltzers, he was seen to be convulsed in the first moment with a strong shudder, either of terror or distaste. But
In the next, his brow reddened with rage. Who dares? He demanded hoarsely of the courtiers. Who stood near him? Who dares insult us with this blasphemous mockery? Seize him and unmask him, that we may know whom we have to hang at sunrise from the battlements. It was in the eastern or blue chamber in which stood the Prince Prospero as he uttered these words. They rang throughout the 7 rooms loudly and clearly, for the prince was a bold and robust man, and the music had become hushed at the waving of his hand. Whew. Okay, that is the section from The Mask of the Red Death, which I can promise you I've never ever read before in my entire life. Now here's the thing that's baffling me right this very moment. It might be a stretch, but in the city of Philadelphia, every New Year's Day there is a parade. The parade is the parade of the mummers, and all these people get dressed up in really weird costumes, and they wear masks, and they play really fun music, and they waltz. Could this be related to Poe? Is that where the mummers parade came from? Maybe. I'm gonna have to look that up, because I've never ever read this before in my life. Edgar Allan Poe did spend some time in Philadelphia. You know how Philly likes to, cling to their own. If it didn't come from Philadelphia, then, get the heck out of here. We don't want you. So maybe, just maybe, there's a tie there. Does anybody know? Does anyone on the live stream know? Is the Mummers Parade Poe related? Nathan Cottrell says what?
No, he's here.
Nathan Cottrell, you're out there. You live in Philadelphia. Tell me what you know. I gotta look this up. Here we are. He demanded hoarsely of the courtier. Live now. Yes, live now. Jason Cannon, Bree, bless you. Oh, you got the sneeze? Carrie, hi Carrie. Howdy-ho. Janelle, I hope dog's with you. Jason Cannon, did you get the children put to bed? Well, that is a very interesting thought. I do have my Philly shirt on. Funny thing is, we were in the grocery store today, and the meat guy looked at me and he goes, "Why does that look like a Wawa logo?" And I said, "Well, because it is a Wawa logo. It's just the word John in the Wawa." And he's like, "Well, I know the word John." He's like, "I'm from South Philadelphia." And I was like, "No way." So we stood there in the grocery store. I had my mask on. Don't worry. He had a mask on and gloves. He's behind the meat counter. But he's talking about, he's from South Philly. We used to live in Philly, so we had a moment there in the grocery store. He's not been here very long, right? No, he graduated from Drexel. Had some friends tell him to move out here, so he's here. I told him I would come back when I didn't have to wear a mask. So, well, I think that about does it. Buy meat tomorrow. Lance! How's Iggy Pup doing? That's my friend Lance. He's got a dog named Iggy, and he's a snotty looking like bull terrier thing. Very sweet dog. His name's Iggy Pup. All right, my name is Murph. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow night with more Edgar Allan Poe. We're going to do The Telltale Heart. We're going to do Annabelle Lee. What else do we look at? Land or Cottage? Landor's Cottage. So we're going to look at those for the rest of the week. We may do some more Poe beyond the week. We'll find out. It's kind of fun. I like the darkness a little bit. Landor's Cottage. Okay, Landor. Like Lando Calrissian, but Landor's Cottage. Telltale Heart, Annabelle Lee, Landor's Cottage are on the docket. So we'll look at those for the remainder of this week.
Keep an eye out. I may switch up times depending on some things that need to be going on. Here, I actually do have work to do this week, so this is a good thing. But in the meantime, please enjoy reading things with a Southern accent. Sit around with your families. It is a family show. I use no profanities. It's a family show. My name is Murph. Thanks for tuning in. As always, please wash your hands and good night.